Okay, in this video I have the Samsonas 5-speed gearbox, which has finally arrived. Thank you to Jason, Top Gear Garage in Australia, for arranging this. This kit here is a gearbox, which is the Samsonas 5-speed. It's actually a 6-speed box, apparently at least. It's a 6-speed gearbox with a 6th gear removed, and instead the 6th gear has a bearing carrier somewhere along one of the lay shafts, or both the lay shafts. Not exactly sure, but this is the strongest, I think, way to make this Samsonas Sequential gearbox. Essentially the shaft through the middle of the gearbox has got additional support, so it should handle shock loading and higher torque levels better. So I'm just going to unbox this. This is the box, obviously, with stuff in it, and I don't even know what this is, and I don't know what this is. And there's also this box here, which is, pretty sure I know what this is. So this is a hydraulic release, which looks like it has some, I assume, specialist part machined up to go over the input shaft of the Samsonas. Obviously just sits nicely in there. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's number one. So, number two, don't exactly know what this is. Looks like it's going to be the shifter. And it is the shifter. Beautiful. Very light. Pretty cool looking piece of kit. So that's number two. So we've got the shifter, got the release, also got my automatic bell housing, and a dummy block over there with the direct clutch bolted up. Alright, so we got the output shaft, 1350. Nice, strong, big gear. So number three. Let's have a look at this gearbox. I'll pull this out now and have a good look at this. Alright, so here we are. Beautiful looking thing. Not even sure what that is, to be honest. I've got a lot of learning to do about this gearbox, but what I do know is that here is the adapter plate, which is going to go onto my automatic bell housing, so that should be nice and straightforward. The rear of the gearbox has a slip yoke output shaft to actually go, because I didn't really want to change my drive shaft too much. So there's my old drive shaft, and I'm just going to modify that because it's a two-piece. In fact, you can probably look under the car right now. I can see the drive shaft, maybe. You can see the drive shaft there, the second piece. So all I need to basically do is just make up that front piece, which is going to sit in there. Shouldn't be too bad. It's got a removable input shaft, which is pretty cool. I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. I can imagine that's going to be handy in certain occasions. So I need to figure out how that works. 1350 yoke, nice and strong. Tilt and hydraulic release, which I assume, let's have a look at that right now. I assume it's just going to slip over this. Oh yeah. Beautiful, so that just sort of locates onto there. And I think I need to set the height. In fact, I will need to confirm that the height of this piece right here is not going to have any preload on the fingers on the back of the clutch. So that's pretty much the trickiest thing with just assembling this setup, is to ensure that at no circumstance when the clutch fingers come out is that going to be pushing any pressure on the back of those fingers, because what that does is it puts load on the crankshaft, and somewhere in the middle, in fact I'm going to zoom on it, is a bearing, roughly I think about there, which is thrusts, which takes all the load of what's called preload from the clutch, and it wears the bearing out real quick, and you just tend to get low oil pressure, and if it pushes too far the actual crank will start to grind on the girdle. I've seen that before. So I'm going to try to assemble this on the car, get the bow housing on, get the adapter plate on, figure everything out, then I need to get it into the car. It needs to come over here, and I need to measure the distance between the back of the gearbox and the face of that flange for the second piece of the drive shaft back there. I need to get that drive shaft made up pretty quickly. I'm running out of time, and that will be pretty much the gearbox setup done. There is some digital componentry as well, so the ECU will know what gear it's in. Then we can run our geared boost. So obviously need to get that wired in as well. Alright, so just been checking out this adapter plate. It seems that the bolt holes to attach to the bell housing are a little bigger on the Samsonas compared to these holes here, so by about 0.5 mil. So what I'm going to do is just drill these out to 12 mil, and that will allow me to bolt that directly onto the back of the gearbox, or the front of the gearbox. Alright, so I've got the bow housing and bolted to the adapter plate. There's actually four bolt holes in four corners where the gearbox attaches to the adapter plate. 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath. It only came with 4 bolts, but I do note there's actually another thread here for 8 bolts, so you can actually double up. So I'm thinking I'm just going to do that, but for now 4 bolts should be all good. I'm going to attach to the back of the engine the old cracked block and get it in the car to measure up the drive shaft length. I've just lowered the front of the car slightly so you can now see down back to the drive shaft with the flange of the second piece. So let's get it in. Alright, so I got that bolted up to the engine, the old engine, ready to go in the hole. As you can see, I'm also running solid engine mount on the exhaust side. I used to run a urethane, and a urethane on the intake side, so basically a hybrid of engine mounts, aiming to reduce the amount of movement in the engines but have a little bit of absorption, I guess, with the urethane on this side, so when the engine torques it will load that one the most, and hopefully that will just be a little bit less brutal and everything versus using solid mounts on both sides. Alright, so gearbox in, well, kind of in, been held up by the jack. So I need to make a cross member to go, just to mount the gearbox essentially. There's kind of a tag there on the left. It looks like this gearbox has already got sort of rubber mounts in it, so it should just be a little bracket and a bolt for the middle, both sides. I also need to come in here now, and I'm going to just grind out this area here, and essentially just locate this, find the location that I want to have that. Probably just do a couple of temporary bolt holes, and then I'll get probably a real fabricator to fabricate that up a bit nicer, but at least I'll position it myself, and may even look at connecting this to the gearbox trying to make all this sort of work, understand it all, so if I am at the track and swing brakes, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I got that mounted roughly where I want it, kind of on an angle with the handbrake, so when I pull the gear lever it doesn't, so it just feels a bit more natural, with my arm kind of going that way rather than going straight back, so that's pretty cool. Next thing is it's the first time I've actually seen one of these, the load cell. This is for the shift cut, which sits in line with this threaded chromoly rod, which is going to go into the back of the shifter and also into the gearbox. Have a look under here. You can see there we've got the bottom of the shifter, so this is going to thread into there. And at the top of the gearbox we've got, so you can just see it, there's a threaded rod, which this is going to go onto. So I'll get that on there now, we'll have a look at the length. Okay, so that's mocked up now. You can see the load cell in line, the shaft going down to the back of the gearbox. Unfortunately I was unable to put the shifter on an angle because I'm almost out of movement with this rose joint. In fact, it's quite tight as it is. I need to confirm that that's still okay, but at least that's mocked up. I just need to get these corners welded of that rod into the the part that threads needs to be welded to the rod, and then that's job done.
4.5 or 3.
Okay, so I'm in the car at the moment. I've got the ECU plugged into it. I'm in neutral at the moment. The way it works is pretty much first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or whatever it is, back up to zero, back up to neutral. If I'm at the top of first, I can't go any further now, so to go further I need to pull this lever. That allows me to put it into neutral, and then once again into reverse somehow. I think it's easy when the car's on. The other thing I've set up here is, well, kind of already been set up, but I've just made sure it works, is the gearbox now, so you can see the voltage, frequency, the voltage itself. So first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, so fifth gear, fourth gear, third gear, second gear, first gear. Let's see what happens if I go neutral. So it's 1.3 volts. 6.6 volts. Basically the ECU now knows what gear I'm in, so I can set up things like geared boost, more boost in sort of third, fourth and fifth gear, and low boost in first and second to keep the power down. And to go into reverse, just pull this lever up, and it's neutral, and then once again into reverse. So to get into reverse and neutral, pull the lever up, push forward, and once you're inside, if you come back this way, you get into the gears. The thing with this gearbox is kind of cool is you can't push it more like past first. So if you go first, second, third, fourth, fifth, fourth, third, second, first, if you push it again, you can't get into neutral without pulling that lever, so you're kind of sort of like in a safety zone as such. But yeah, all in all, that's now set up and working. ECU knows about it. So I haven't set up a shift cut, so the shift cut is when you don't have to take your foot off the gas, you can just keep your foot on the accelerator pedal and just pull the gears, and that's what that load cell is for, but I'm not using it at the moment. All I'm doing is just telling the ECU what gear it's in, so that's the main thing, so we can get geared boost. Alright, so if I just fire this thing up and pull some gears, if it will start up, the battery sounds quite flat, but So there you have it. It works, feels good, clutch works, everything just seems to work nicely. So yeah, really looking forward to putting this thing through its paces on the track. I'm hoping it's going to be as reliable as people say they are. We'll soon see.